What's up everyone, welcome back to the channel. I appreciate you watching. Please subscribe if you're enjoying this content. Today's video is all about waterfront living in the Sarasota greater area. This has been a really relevant topic as of late. It's kind of a tricky search, so I wanted to fully break this thing down as deep as I could. This is a mix of a 12-month look back of statistics, basically indicators of where you should be searching, what has sold, what I think will sell in the future. I'm giving away a model for free. I'm showing aesthetically examples of what you could have gotten. I'm giving some insight of how to view this kind of search, and all of this to lead to say our past, even albeit in a weird year, is a great predictor of what trends should happen in the future. I'm going to give you some insight at the end there as well. So I hope you enjoy this entire video. Hope it adds you some value, and let's get started. Okay, first things first, let's talk foundational premise for this video, location and proximity. Okay, so again here, we're looking at waterfront living as you would truly think about it if you were searching in the Sarasota, Florida greater area. We're not looking at man-made lakes, creeks, lagoons, things that don't open into anything. We're actually looking at true frontage, bay, opens into the Gulf. Unlike North Carolina or some of the Midwest territory, we don't have these big boatable lakes like Lake Norman or all this kind of stuff you would think of when you think of like a lake house. We don't have that here. So we're looking at what people are actually trying to find. We're trying to avoid all the little MLS, Zillow tricks that would be like technically waterfront if there's any body of water in your backyard. So that was the first thing I sifted out. Okay, and for the study itself, I chose to look at a 12-month look back period. We are in a weird market, it's fast moving. I didn't want to go further back. This covered 2,600 plus total records, so I thought it was plenty of records to be considered significant in this period of time. And also spread across 27 different zip codes just amongst Sarasota and Manatee counties. Now again, when you're looking at Sarasota greater area, it's not just Sarasota city limits. Sarasota counties, Venice, Northport, Sarasota, some of the beaches, it's a large piece of territory, right? And then Manatee County goes all the way up to Palmetto and Ellington and half of Longboat Key, Anna Maria Island. So, but when you're looking at Sarasota, Florida, these are all in play, right? You're not looking at Sarasota like little city limits and half a Longboat. Everyone's considering the whole thing, especially if you're not from here. You're not looking at all the municipalities. You're not looking at all the little towns. So all of this is in play, right? So I just want to cover that basis. And of course, because like most studies, right, this wasn't a true Pareto, but there's definitely some heavy hitters that cropped up to the top, which is what I was looking for, right? I'm looking for indicators of what might be indicators of what might happen next. Areas, if you were like, I want waterfront living, what are the 3, 4, 5 different areas that are always gonna be in play, right? It's very common because of how this part of the state's shaped. And that's exactly what happened here, right? It wasn't a true Pareto, but there were 6 different areas that were significant over all the rest. And then there's some onesie twosies here and there. So what I want to do next is I want to talk about those 6 areas briefly. I'm going to mention the zip code. I'll tell you the names. I'm going to talk a little bit about them, and then we'll move on. Okay, first up, our top selling overall, responsible for 21% of our overall sales volume over the last 12 months, zip code 34228, Longboat Key, Florida. Okay, Longboat Key, Florida. Really special spot here. I'm going to talk briefly. We're going to go deeper into the model in section 2. So this is an area overview. So real evident in the 547 total sales of our 2,600 plus in the study, significant portion, number 1 overall, and you're about to see why. So this area is 16 total square miles, just northwest of downtown Sarasota, and it's split about 50-50 on Sarasota County and Manatee County to the north. So you border kind of the Sarasota Airport, Indian Beach, you're under Anna Maria Island, and you're above Lido St. Armand Circle if you're familiar with the area. And the character here is heavy residential. So once you get past St. Armand Circle, it feels a lot more residential, albeit you have 12 miles of white sandy beaches. You do have public accesses, but you don't have these large gathering spots that you get in like a Siesta Key or Anna Maria, in my opinion. It feels way more residential. Waterfront golf, you have the Longboat Key Club. You have a lot of snowbirds, a lot of retirees. You have waterfront dining, and very tropical and a little bit more private feeling if you're looking for like a homestead. But nonetheless, a lot of opportunities, right? And then you can be lower on the key, upper on the key. You have a lot of different lifestyles, right? Because it's so long. So overall, super pleasant spot. And let's move on to number 2. Okay, a very close number 2, Siesta Key, Florida, zip code 34242. Most of it on the Key, a little bit on the mainland, responsible for 20% of the total sales at 538 in the last 12 months. Okay, Siesta Key, Florida, always a popular one. Another barrier island bordering Sarasota, Florida. Actually, where I grew up, this one location is gonna be south of downtown. So you're about 6 miles from where I sit right now in my office, and you're gonna border more mid to south Sarasota. So as you come down before Casey Key and Venice area, and then below kind of the Manatee line is where this is gonna sit. You're about 8 miles end to end, and this one clusters a lot more in a single area. So when, I'm gonna explain a little bit more about the island, but so when people think of Siesta Key, they're thinking a lot of times this one little section. So north on the island, you basically have like, you come from downtown, and there's a north bridge off of US 41, and then on the northern part of the island, you have the main Siesta Key beach, one of 3 beaches actually. So the main Siesta Key beach, this is the quartz white sand, the sugary sand that you won't even see in Lido or parts of Longboat. So a lot of Anna Maria and Siesta Key and Crescent have this like really, really white sugary sand that doesn't even get cold, or it doesn't even get hot to the touch when it's like really, really hot outside. So just really unique. And you have that main Siesta Key beach, big parking lot, traditional kind of beach. So it's very long from parking lot to the water, but it's a main area. And then Siesta Key Village is like the main shopping district on the island, which is right above the beach. So all of that's like, if the island's like this long, all of that sits right up here. So that's what everybody like thinks of when they just think of the whole Key. Now the Key gets a little bit more expansive. So that shopping area, you have boutiques, you have restaurants, you have some nightlife there as well, like the beach club and some of these places. And then the beach is a walking distance to that. There's a main parking lot area that gets it's bigger now, but it becomes a little bit of a cluster, and you have playgrounds and kind of stuff in front of it. And then as you go down the middle of the island, you have Crescent Beach, which is right by the Stickney Point Bridge, which is the second bridge, the South Bridge, which will dump you out Tamiami Trail to South Sarasota. And then all the way at the tip of the island is a little bit more residential. It's Turtle Beach. That's all the way at the bottom. So the beach isn't going to be near as nice, but it's a lot less crowded. And a lot of people like surf fish there. And if you're just trying to get away, it's kind of a nice spot. But all that to say, like, this island's just shaped a little different. So residentially, you do have a lot of single families. My parents live on the island. You have like north of the beach, you have a lot of residential housing. And then you have a lot of residential housing all the way in the south. And then a lot of the in-between is more like condo hotels. There is luxury condominiums as well. But this island is, feel-wise, to round it out, is just a lot more eclectic, a lot more like $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 condominiums that are in like the condo hotels. Not all luxury high-rises like a lot of Longboat is. And a lot more eclectic, beachy, touristy vibe to the main beach and to the village versus Longboat being a little bit more upscale and the St. Armand's being a more uppity type of beach. But that's Siesta Key, that's our number 2, and it's only 1 percentage point below Longboat Key. So these two combined make up 41% of our total volume. Okay, our third location, another heavy hitter making up a large chunk of our volume, is 34236, one of the main downtown Sarasota, Florida zip codes, making up 13% of our total 2,600 plus sales over the last 12 months. Okay, this part of downtown Sarasota this area might be my favorite overall. It's just an amazing proximity. That's where my headquarters is based. So if you sit here, you're 3 miles to Lido, 6 miles to Siesta Key, you're 9 miles to Lakewood Ranch, you're 30 minutes down to downtown Venice. It's a really nice proximity. And then the area of 34236 and why this was chosen is this made up 13% of the volume, but it's not the only zip code in downtown Sarasota. You also have 34239 that makes up a lot of the chunk. But 34239 only made up 1%, and this made up 13%. So that brings us to 54 total percentage points on just 3 zip codes of our overall volume. And where you sit here locationally, the part of downtown we're in we are pretty much all west of the trail. There's a little bit that creeps east of the trail, and I mean Tamiami Trail, so west of that. You're below 17th and Coconut is your northern border, and then your southern border is the top of Hudson Bayou. And then this actually bleeds over and covers all of Bird Key and all of Lido Key in the St. Armand's area. So you get the volume here from a lot of condominiums. There is a lot of residential historic housing, but a lot of the condominium turnover in this area of how many condominiums exist here all of the base, so all of these new ones that just have a ton of volume, that will creep this total number up. That's how they get, in my opinion, that's how they got to this volume in this single year. And overall feel, it's a very interesting place. So like, unlike like a downtown St. Pete or some of these beach villages, some of these areas that are a little bit more like eclectic and like a different coastal vibe, this one's got an upscale tier to it, but in like a balanced way. So we have a lot of affluence here, but not in my opinion, not in like an arrogant, pretentious manner. It has a John Ringling evolution. It's very artistic. So so you have art galleries, you have a mix of restaurants and bars, and a lot of like really high Zagat rated restaurants, all in this little tiny corridor. Just the overall feel of it's just a really nice balance in a clean, upscale manner. And there's never a lot of people here. It's extremely walkable. And then you're just so close to all those beaches as well, so you don't have to choose like, I'm gonna live on the bay versus the beach, which a lot of towns are separated. So that gives it this coastal manner. And the evolution of the town, how there used to be like not really a street divide from downtown Sarasota to the water, when now you have bayfront running in front of there that used to not exist. So you had this like, the whole thing sits on water, and it just creates a really gem of an area in the country, if I articulated that well enough to get that across. And then this bleeds over into the whole St. Armands area, which would be your more upscale beach district. It's kind of this like figure eight designed John Ringling area. Really, really nice. Tons of shops, tons of restaurants, ton of events. Lido Key is one of my favorite because it's like a balance of like, you don't have a big cluster of people like a Siesta Key if you're not looking for that. Really kid friendly. The sand's not quite as nice, but easy in and out parking. A lot of places you can walk down that are more private. So I like the kind of access points to it. But overall, 34236, amazing area. Makes total sense with the heavy influx of how condominiums are based on the water in urban districts to get this volume. And let's move on to our final one. Okay, our fourth and final one that I would consider in a Pareto manner, a heavy indicator of where volume will sit in the future, is actually made up of 3 zip codes that cover the Western Bradenton District: 34217, 34208, and 34209. Okay, the reason I chose to cluster these 3 together was because of how they relate to shopping that district. So basically, if you are, you take these 3 zip codes and that adds another 14%. So now we're at about 68% across 6 zip codes, but 4 shopping areas. So 68% of our 2,600 plus sales. The other 32% of all those other zip codes, there's not another one that's individually above 4%. And then to get to onesie, twosies all along the way and in spotty different areas. So these 6 over 4 areas really rise to the top. The reason that I have 3 here uniquely is because of how people look at that area. So what this is one does get on the beach. It's Holmes Beach, Bradenton. It's not Anna Maria Island, which I would say is in a silo. So Anna Maria is the tip, Longboat Key's here, this part of the beach here, Holmes, Coquina, Bradenton Beach. And then the other one bleeds to the mainland, all the way north. So you have Palmasola and the western Bradenton mainland, and then you get the one right next to that one as well. So that whole section here. So the way to look at this area is typically people end up going north for water access because of the cost efficiency of how the town is shaped. So because Sarasota, the bay access and the Gulf access is in such condensed areas that if you're in the main part of the bay, you either border downtown Sarasota with Longboat Key on one side, or you border downtown Sarasota to the south with Siesta Key on the side, and it's just too much going on in that district where it's incredibly expensive, right? So arguably the best districts overall to live, that average price point is just through the roof. Where if you go north, then you can access you get a little bit further from stuff, right? So, and then unconventional access. So the brackish, the river, the brackish access out to the Gulf. So the Manatee River is up above Bradenton. So if you look up at it, being in Bradenton looking up versus Palmetto looking down at the river, then you have a lot of residential housing. You have suburbs like Palmasola. It's way more affordable because that area, its origin hasn't gotten where everything's been redone. It's a little bit bigger. It's in some parts like lower end values and that kind of thing. So overall, your access of money is cheaper there. And then depending on where you're on, you could be 15 minutes out to the Gulf of Mexico, or like even way back in like Islands of Manatee River, build like a custom house, be 30 minutes over. So the river out is a way to get to an amazing area for fishing and boating, but it's a lot cheaper. And then Holmes Beach and that little area is also another avenue to do that. So you have the Anna Maria Sound that borders the river. So, but overall, incredible proximity. If you knew nothing about the town, this area looks absolutely phenomenal because, you know, Anna Maria is the northernmost tip of a barrier island in these two counties. And then St. Pete Beach and Tierra Verde and Fort DeSoto look down. So, so like if you're out in that Manatee River, you're like right here to the Gulf. And then you have like the Skyway Bridge of fishing, boating, amazing, right? Anna Maria Sound's lovely. The issue always been and why it's a little bit cheaper is because one, it's really far, right? So it's like 45 minutes one way to downtown Sarasota, right? So like not everybody can live day to day out in that environment. And then people just struggle with like, I'm going to put my money out there and boating and all that's great, but the average home value just isn't as equal as like a downtown Sarasota or west of the trail would be. But then you're saving, you get a discount, right? So that's the kind of feel of it. That's the main reason that people go there is really why this is significant. So I wanted to get that across. And with that being said, let's move on and let me show you my model. Okay, in the second part of this video, I want to talk about the statistics specifically. I built a model to do this analysis. I thought it'd be a waste to not also share this model with you if you were someone that wanted to take a deeper dive and get deeper insight independently of me or any of that kind of thing with no entertainment value. Then I built it for that reason. So please stick around for a minute or two where I'm going to show you how you can access that tool for yourself, download the whole thing, it's yours, whatever. So this is my model. This basically shows, I'm going to show you a little bit how it works, maybe some ways to look at the data, and then you can kind of run with it. So, this shows the 27 different zip codes that made up the analysis. I created my own labels to shortlist the areas if you're not familiar with the zip codes themselves, which most people would not be. You can see the number of sales. I have it ranked in ascending order right now, but you can adjust all this stuff, right? If you know kind of your way around this data. Built like a tool, so there's buttons. You have sold price, price per square foot, just all the relevant data, right? The square foot averages, bedroom, bathroom, year built, or whatever, if you're looking at buildings. And then, so the way I would look at it, just to show you like one example, right? So you see these kind of sold prices. You see they're at the top, obviously the most popular ones, they're expensive. You see these values very similar. And then, but you could say, okay, if I get a little bit deeper, what would kind of pop out as maybe a way to shop this area more intelligently? So you could say, okay, look at all these values, right? It's including everything. So I'm gonna say, what if I'm just looking at condominiums? Well, you see, boom, like the first thing I notice is what happened to Siesta Key, right? So 728 average on 370 sales of just condos, right? If you include everything, it's so more than half the sales. And you see where that value went? So maybe if I'm looking at condominiums specifically and I'm looking for like some sort of cost advantage, maybe Siesta and Bradenton Beach would be a great area to look at condos, right? Just one indicator in a vague sense. You can do the same with single families, right? So you're back to this list if you take a quick mental image of that, and then you go to single family only, right? This is single family townhome, villa, non-condo. And then you see what happened to Western Bradenton at 893. So maybe that river district I mentioned about cost efficiency, maybe a single family on the river, maybe there's going to be, see the values here where the opposite happens of where the condo is lowering the average. This is the opposite here. So single families on the islands is tough, right? Because it's all beach to bay. So, another indicator of like, maybe that's on the short list there of like, if I'm looking at single families, so just some ways to look at it like that. You can also command on Mac or control on a PC. You can, choose specific things. You can choose multiple buckets here. So like, say I'm looking at price and I want to do 750 to $1 million, but I also want to do $1 million to $2 million. So I selected both of those. Say I just want to look at single families. So I got all that right here. You can do date sold as well. But then when I want to okay, I get it, but maybe there's outliers there. So you can double click any of these, opens a whole nother tab here. So it doesn't mess up the data at all. And then this is every individual record that made up those 50 plus records, the price, the zip. As you go further right, you have, does it have a pool? You have year built, neighborhood it's in or whatever. So that gives you a great, maybe all of the stuff you're looking for ends up clustering in a certain area or whatever. So just some examples. If you, so that's all I'm going to do here with this one. I don't want to bore you to death, but if you click right up here, I'll put somewhere a card with a link directly to a landing page. I'm just going to trade you for an email, nothing salesy related to that. Just trade you for an email. I'm going to put all my statistic models there. I built, again, timestamp this thing, 12-month look back from when I filmed this. So don't hold me to stuff if you watch it from a year from now, but I just want to be transparent. Is I'm going to have all my models. I have Siesta Key ones, Lakewood Ranch ones, individual ones. It's all going to be there, right? So if you go to that one email address, you get them all. Download it from Google Drive, and it's a full Excel file. And then lastly, before we wrap up this section, I wanted to mention is over the last while now, it's been kind of on my mind that condominiums was lacking this information source. So condominiums specifically, I felt like it's not for a regular person online. There's not a Zillow interface that does it well, and the condo websites, and it's real salesy, stuff that's new. The way these things are moving, it's very hard for a regular person to research condo listings, new versus resale, have the whole picture. Plus condominiums, especially in the luxury realm, they're shopping large territories. West Palm versus Naples versus Sarasota versus Tampa Bay. MLS is this like old school game of protection, right? So like a lot of realtors, if you're in Sarasota, you can't see listings in Naples, and you can't see listings on the Space Coast, and so it's just this weird game of like why information gets out. It's like these skewed non-fiduciary manners. I thought it was lacking. All that to say, to try to solve that problem, I have launched a second YouTube channel. It's called The Condo Collective. I'm going to put the link somewhere here as well. Love for you to subscribe. It's brand new. The first video went out last week. These are going to be deep dives. I'm going to try to solve this problem over time with a more color commentary approach to deep analytics across the entire state of Florida. So if that's something you would enjoy, please subscribe to that. Would love your support. If you like this channel, it's going to be of the similar vein. But very deep information wise. I'm going to try to go deep there and show you what these things look like and tell you all about them. So love for you to subscribe there. And with that being said, let's move on to our third section. Okay, in our third section, just to add as much value as I possibly can, I wanted to run through, I handpicked 4 listings to show you aesthetically what you could have gotten. We're gonna kind of go on the back of the theme I've been going with of the cost efficiencies of the area. So I just wanna give you an example of like 4 options of real houses that were purchased at certain price points. So let's roll into those and we'll just hop through real quick. Okay, our first one is on Manatee River. So you would access the Gulf and the Bay via Manatee's River looking north. This one is on Shark Drive. It was $720,000. So a single family, 4-bedroom, 3-bath, 2,500 square feet, and sold for $720 in almost October of this year, late September. So it's something you'd never be able to get on one of the barrier islands. You have a screened-in pool. You are on that canal again, a deep water canal. You can see probably some updating and stuff like that, but traditional looking house. The takeaway here would be, again, this is something that you would be far-fetched in a Siesta Key or a Longboat Key, but something if you're willing to do the river, this gives you access to this kind of vibe. Okay, our second one, sticking with the theme, we're gonna look at a single family on Siesta Key at $900,000. This one is north of the beach on the northern part of the Key in Siesta's Bayside. It sold for $900,000 even. It sold in May. It was 3,200 square feet, 7 days on market total. You're gonna be on the Bayside here, the canals, then you're gonna wrap around to the Gulf. This one does have a hydraulic lift, with storage underneath. The house would need updates. So this idea is under $1 million of a single family on Siesta Key. As we funnel through photos here, you're gonna be, obviously like it's gonna need some work. It's not gonna be completely turnkey, but this stuff, it shows you the possibilities of being under $1 million in the right place. It's not far-fetched in 2022 to say that for 1.2, 1.3 with an update, you could be an amazing location with an updated house. A lot of this stuff already exists, so you might need to take on a remodel. Okay, moving right along, we are gonna do 2 more. Number 3, we're gonna hop and mix it up to condominiums in Longboat Key, and we're gonna show by a little higher price point, staying away from single families, the kind of unit you're able to get. So 1.75 million, just above St. Armand's Circle. This one is located inside the resort at Longboat Key, very prestigious. It's a 2-bedroom, 2-bath at 1,600 square feet. It was sold in August at $1.7.5 million. but you can see how nice of a unit you're able to get inside of a resort style thing with this kind of view. You'd never be able to do this as a single family because of the proximity. The condominium is going to get you way easier access to a beachfront here. And this community is called Inn on the Beach, but phenomenal views, really updated units. This would be your best bet of beach access for under $2 million if you can brunt the fees, but I just want to give you a little bit idea of the other side of the coin. Lastly, and if you want the best of the best, you're saying what would it take to do a large single family in one of the most attractive locations in town, waterfront, we're going to show you one that is at $5.2 million on Lido Key and then actually in the Lido Beach subdivision. Sold at $5.2 million in August and had multiple offers to boot. It was built in 2013. The list price was 4.7. It went for 5.2. It only took 6 days. Private pool, 5-bedroom, 4.5 bath, 4,600 plus square feet. Space for all your toys, everything you would think of when you picture Florida paradise on the bay side, but almost if an aerial can almost see the Gulf across the street. Just a phenomenal house, very beautiful, but you could see the kind of price point of where a $2 million condo would come in play if you're not willing to make that large leap, but just wanted to round that out and let's move on. Okay, in our fourth and final section for this video, I just want to talk very briefly about 2022, the market, etc. So again, we're having the hat on of waterfront living. I think this is becoming, this is just continuing to get a difficult search. It's harder to solve these problems. It's not as easy as like a Lakewood Ranch or these suburbs where if you're like, I have $2 million, waterfront, water access, it's tricky. The inventory is low. You can't just build anywhere. New construction is so minute when it comes to this thing because of the land. You know, they can't build these big plats of land. It's all trading individually. A lot of this stuff does trade off market. So data-wise, it's tough. Access-wise, for a layman, it's tough. Who gets the actual deals? Like a lot of these developers and stuff get stuff by knocking on doors, and they get stuff that trades off market, and then they set a concept for an urban infill where they bought land for 700 grand, and they're like, okay, I'm going to do blah 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 blah, and then they're listing it as a concept. So it just ties you into a price because their margin's already built in. So it's just getting tricky, right? So one thing I would say is, I don't know if it's going to slow down, so I would say be open to different areas, right? Just becoming more educated on how the coast relates to the town and where all these value propositions got created in the first place. So if you can get on the fringe versions of it, be open to Indian Beach, Sapphire Shores is a very interesting area by Ringling. 2.5 miles north of downtown, just changes price point because the values aren't as even, but still nice water access. You know, South Venice is interesting with like ferry access. Turtle Beach, like the south end of Siesta Key, Western Bradenton, but just examples of like, you know, it's similar water, right? So it's just the mainland, how it relates to the islands and the main parts of town that creates all the value. So maybe become more educated so you can know what 1.2 versus 700K versus 1.8 and just where these sit, where we're in a market of inflated prices and people just calling their shots and no appraisals, that you can maybe get your head around, like, even if the prices are high, like of where, what pecking order they should sit. Also remodeling versus new, you know, these areas are old. If you want a new house, like you go to like what new on the river, I mean, that is a tiny list, right? So like you want custom construction, waterfront, you have like the islands of Manatee River. This is a small list for single families. I don't even know if you can get 3 or 4 together to compare. So if you could get value in, say you do a construction to perm loan on a new construction, right? So like the way you piece those deals together, it's not all that different than saying like, it's very cash heavy and there's reserves, to say like, can you back your way into being very educated on if something came out at 1.2, your road to 1.7 or 8, because the land's already embedded, the house is there, the lots might be bigger already. So there's gonna be a lot more access on remodeling versus new, and some people can't look past aesthetics, maybe you can get value there. Urban infill, so taking the developer opportunities where they can, sorry, I have a sneeze coming. They can find land in these amazing areas, and then developers have access to stuff quicker. And if they piece that thing together, then that might be the way to go, to get an urban infill new house, as long as they don't put it on a tiny lot. and say like your value is already there. Maybe you can negotiate. A lot of times you can get your options you could add. So that would be a way to build in an existing neighborhood. And then finally, just to round the whole thing out is, I think inventory is going to increase. You know, I mean, I think this area is going to remain really hot, but we're coming in that period of when inventory should start increasing. And, you know, I think we've run in these like large swaths of just like really ridiculous price increases, but the beaches and the coastline and waterfront's always going to be perceived value, right? I like that our perceived value also has a lot of value that surrounds it as far as like a downtown and water, bay, golf, beach. You have all kinds of things that are old school real estate reasons that it's not as fickle as just like a urban environment that you're overvaluing historic homes. I like that, but people are always going to call their shots. It's always going to be a scarcity game. If we can increase inventory a little bit, it's just going to even the playing field as far as like you don't need to rush and all this kind of stuff. Condos will start making sense versus single families. But I think I'm adamant that we don't know how it's going to shake out, right? But I'm adamant that the Seattle and the San Francisco and just California as a whole and these states that are migrating here, their perspective of money is so crazy different that there's not going to be this large, like just automatically this thing just halts and you have all this beach opportunity for 1 million or whatever. So I think we changed the whole foundation. But again, if you're in the market and this price point's relevant to you, then I think this is you might be able to win based on the search. Like who you, like, not to toot like realtors horn or whatever, but like this is a trickier search. The trickier the search, there will be opportunity like developers get if you can, as a layman, figure out how to search that market, value it, you have the right resources to get the information, and this could be a way to actually get the opportunity where it might not be some big price discount, but it can be advantageous as far as you found stuff, never hit the market, you have some negotiating power that's trickier based on terms. Anyway, so that's kind of my whole spiel on 2022's outlook, if that makes sense. And let's, please stick around for the outro. I got a couple value adds for you, so let's conclude here. All right, everyone, that is a wrap for today's video. If you enjoyed this content, please just do me a couple things really quick. Please subscribe before you go. Please like the video if you like this one specifically. Secondly, if I provided you any value at all over the last 12 months, 14 months, whatever, if you've enjoyed anything, please do me a huge favor if you get a second. Please subscribe to my second channel, The Condo Collective. It's brand new, deep dive breakdowns of all things condominiums across Southwest Florida, trying to solve a gap that I'm seeing that was related to a gap that I saw when I first started this channel. So this will be more relocation, that'll be more condos. I'm gonna separate the two. Please subscribe, it's brand new, even entertainment value alone. That should be a cool one over time. Thirdly, if we can help you at all, our specialties specifically are relocation in a deep dive sense and high-end condominiums. We just expanded to Naples. We have a headquarters in downtown Sarasota. We cover Tampa Bay very deeply, St. Petersburg, know that area super well. We're probably gonna get a little bit outside of that so we can provide a lot of comparative value against all of those regions fiduciary-wise. If we can do that at all, my phone number right at the bottom. You can email info, Leah, me, everywhere, right? Description box. As well, please reach out at all. Mention how you found us, what you want, whatever. We'd love to help you in any way we can. We'd love to meet you if you're in town. And lastly, helpful resources. I have a ton of analytical models on pages that just trade you for an email address. I have downloadable relocation guides. We have a lot of value adds that you might not be aware of in our description box below. So before you leave, make sure you check that out. I think we're 160 plus videos now. You can use our channel more like a library to search. All that being said, thank you again for watching, and we will see you on the next video.